How authentication actually works. Authentication is not about passwords. It is about establishing trust between two parties that cannot see each other. When a system authenticates you, it is not trying to learn who you are as a person. It is trying to decide whether it should trust the identity you are claiming right now. In this video, we are going to look at how authentication actually works inside real systems, what it is trying to prove, and why it fails so often in practice. At its core, authentication answers a very simple question. Can this system trust that you are who you say you are? Everything else is implementation detail. Authentication is not about encryption strength, user interfaces, or compliance checklists. It is about proof and belief under uncertainty. The system cannot see you. It cannot read your intent. It only receives signals. Authentication exists to interpret those signals and decide whether to proceed. Every authentication system, regardless of technology, tries to answer three fundamental questions. First, who are you claiming to be? Second, how are you proving that claim? Third, why should the system believe you now and not someone else replaying the same proof later? If any of these questions is answered poorly, authentication fails. The first question is identity. Identity in security is not a person. It is a label, a username, an account ID, a certificate name, a device identifier. The system does not know who you are. It only knows which identity you are asserting. This is why identity theft is possible. The system cannot distinguish between a real person and an attacker who controls the same identifier. The second question is proof. Proof is whatever evidence you provide to support your identity claim. A password, a cryptographic key, a biometric signal, a token generated by another system. The system does not care how difficult the proof is to generate. It only cares whether the proof matches what it expects. Strong authentication does not mean strong proof. It means proof that is hard to steal, hard to replay, and hard to misuse. Many systems fail here because the proof is reusable. If an attacker can copy your proof, they can become you. The third question is the most misunderstood. Why should the system believe you now? Authentication is not just about correctness, it is about timing and context. A password that was valid yesterday may not be valid today. A token that was valid 5 seconds ago may already be expired. Good authentication systems bind proof to time, context, or both. Bad systems accept static proof without asking when or how it was obtained. This is where replay attacks come from. The system sees a valid proof and assumes it means presence when it only means possession. This leads to the most common failure mode in authentication. Systems confuse possession with intent. If you possess valid credentials, the system assumes you intend to use them legitimately. Attackers exploit this assumption constantly. Phishing works because the system cannot tell whether you typed your password willingly or were tricked into doing so. Credential theft works because the system cannot tell who is holding the secret. Authentication systems rarely fail because the math is broken. They fail because the trust assumptions are wrong. Another common failure comes from recovery paths, password resets, account recovery emails, fallback authentication methods. These paths exist to help users, but they often bypass the strongest controls. Attackers do not attack the front door, they attack the exception. If your recovery process is weaker than your primary authentication, then your real security boundary is the recovery process. It is also important to separate authentication from authorization. Authentication answers the question, "Who are you?" Authorization answers a different question, "What are you allowed to do?" Many security failures happen because systems authenticate users correctly, but then authorize them too broadly. Strong authentication does not protect against excessive permissions. These are separate problems that require separate controls. Finally, it is important to understand that authentication is always probabilistic. No system ever knows who you truly are. It only estimates whether trusting your identity claim is acceptable right now. Every authentication decision is a risk decision. When systems fail, it is usually because that risk was misunderstood, ignored, or intentionally traded away for convenience. Authentication works when systems are honest about uncertainty. It fails when systems pretend trust is binary. In future videos, we will look at specific authentication failures, why modern systems still get this wrong, and what attackers actually exploit in real environments.